What is up, beautiful people? Welcome back to the Made to Excel Fitness Podcast, a fitness podcast for you, by you. I'm your host, as always, Mark Torres. And in today's episode 31, it is a jam-packed episode because I'm going to tell you the 6 things that I wish I knew when I first started my fitness journey. Plus, the weekly follow-up as always. And that's it. I ran out of time. Let's talk about it all. What's up, guys? Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the 31st episode of the Made to Excel Fitness Podcast. It is Monday, October 5th. And some housekeeping things before I get into the podcast itself. The first thing on my list is it is officially spooky season.
This is Halloween, pumpkin scream in the dead.
For those who know me, for those who've listened to this podcast over the last few weeks, you know that my spooky season starts on September 1st because I like to marinate in it a little bit. But for some of you guys, you might be a little later to the punch. It might be October 1st for some of you out there, which means you're officially within the spooky season yourself. And with the beginning of spooky season, that means Camp MT Lake Fitness Center is officially open. Shop all Halloween things on mtfit.com. I finally got around to watching Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. And it is a quintessential, cheesy, late 80s horror movie. But my one big qualm about this movie is that it's called Jason Takes Manhattan. And Jason is in Manhattan for all of 5 minutes at the end of the movie. 75% of the movie takes place on a boat. The other 10% of the movie takes place in nondescript alleys, which are actually Canada's where they filmed. And then like the last 5, maybe 10 minutes, they're in Manhattan. And part of it's in the sewer, so you don't even know if it's Manhattan or not. It's really like 2 minutes probably where they're running through Times Square or they're in a subway. Who even knows if the subway was a New York City subway or somewhere else? So very little of the movie actually takes place in Manhattan. I was looking forward to Jason slashing a bunch of people in Times Square, the Statue of Liberty, all these crazy things. But apparently they just didn't have money in the budget. I was reading about the things that they wanted to do. They didn't have the money to do it. Like Jason was supposed to be in a boxing match in the middle of Manhattan, which sounds absolutely ridiculous and absolutely amazing. I'm very upset that they didn't get to that point. But it is what it is. Quintessential horror viewing. My first time ever watching it, so, I'm not disappointed by it at all. Second thing on my list is a little bit of football talk. As of this past weekend, once again, this is past Mark talking to future you or present you, however you want to look at it. This past weekend was week 2 of the NFL season, and as a massive Chargers fan, we just barely lost to the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs. Justin Hollywood Herbert officially made his debut. Didn't know he was going to make his debut. Surprise debut. I was amped up when I saw him running on the field. Apparently he found out like 5-10 minutes before the game started, which is absolutely insane. For a complete rookie, second game of the season, no preseason. And he went out there and he was shining. I was so excited. He had a great game. I have a Justin Herbert jersey that I wanted to wear for today's podcast episode, but in order to mark the official start of the spooky season, mark the start of the Camp MT Lake Fitness Center, I had to wear my Mason Voorhees shirt. But, also like in future, Coach Lynn said he's going to start Tyrod, so like who knows what's going to happen with Herbert. I have plenty of episodes to wear my Justin Herbert jersey in the future, so there's that. And last but not least, yesterday was my first actual workout in a gym since, let's say the beginning of March. Obviously the gym has been open for a little while now, and I do work at the gym, but very rarely do I actually work out at the gym. But yesterday was the first day that I went to work out at the gym after I got off my shift. And over the past, let's say 2 months, I've really started to hit my workouts at home pretty hard. The first, 2-3 months of quarantine I was working out, but they were really shitty workouts. I wasn't really doing too much. I was very my mind was wandering everywhere, and I didn't get to work out for very long. My workouts weren't very great. Eventually, towards the end, I started to kind of pull it together, and I started to have good workouts. But I only have a limited amount of weight, only have a limited amount of space. So I don't know across the U.S. how many states are left where there's no gyms open, and across the world how many big cities still have their gyms closed. But I can assume that even with gyms opening, there's a decent portion of you guys that are still working out at home because you don't trust going to a gym quite yet. So there might be a good portion of you guys that are still working out at home, and this is going to be a testament to how effective home workouts can be. I've got a limited amount of weights. I've been doing kind of the same thing over and over again, changing mainly reps because I don't have much weight to go up anymore. And yesterday at my first workout back at the gym, I hit a PR in a chest press, and I felt really good doing everything else. Didn't feel like I lost a step, didn't go back. If anything, I went up in weight in some of the workouts. So working out at home with a limited amount of weight, I was doing better now than I was doing back in March. So you absolutely are able to make progress at home. If you're still working out at home, hopefully that is a shining light for you guys, a light at the end of the tunnel. So once you do go back, you don't miss a step. If you haven't been doing anything, then obviously go back to the gym and be a little bit more cautious because you don't want to hurt yourself. But that wraps up the housekeeping things. Let's hop into the topic of today's episode, the 6 things I wish I knew when I first got into fitness. And this is not like the 6 things I wish I knew when I got into the business of personal training, because that's a different topic. None of you guys are personal trainers. It wouldn't be a relatable episode at all. But just as I got into fitness in general, once I got into a fitness journey, what are the 6 things I wish I knew back then that I know now? Hopefully, if I tell you guys these things now, you can be a little early to the punch. So, thing number 1 that I wish I knew back when I started my fitness journey was, when in doubt, do less. So imagine you're back to being a student at school. If there was some sort of metric that could guarantee a test score based on how long you studied, then that's something that probably a lot of you guys would utilize. Let's say that if you were to study for 1 hour, you could guarantee at least an 87% on a test. So 1 hour equals an 87%. But if you wanted to get a 91%, you had to study for 4 hours. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you guys would choose to study 1 hour and get the 87%? Obviously, this is a podcast episode and I can't see you guys, and obviously you guys are probably not raising your hands if you're in the car or at work or wherever you're listening to this, but I can assume that most of you guys will pick the 1 hour and the 87%. It doesn't make sense to study for 3 more hours just for 4 more points. Of course, the 91% is an A minus and the 87% is a B plus, but they're still very similar scores, but they're not very similar study times. One is 1 hour, one is 4 hours. That's a pretty big difference. So most of you guys will go with the 1 hour, but this is a situation where it depends on your situation. If you're a person who has relatively good grades, you're a good student, you've done well the entire year, an 87% probably doesn't affect you too much either way. It won't boost your grade by a lot. It won't drop your grade by a lot. So why not just spend 1 hour studying to get that 87% if you're already in good standing with the school, with the class? But let's say your buddy Jim Bob has been slacking off all year, hasn't done well on the test, has skipped some tests, has not done his homework. He's obviously in a position where he's got a really terrible grade. And he needs at least a 90% on this final test of the year in order to pass the class. Obviously, Jim Bob has no choice but to study for at least 4 hours in order to guarantee the fact that he can get a 91% so he does not have to retake the class. So depending on your situation will dictate how many hours you need to study. The same thing goes with fitness. Obviously, you can make so much of your progress with a basic fitness plan, with a basic sort of workouts. As long as there's progressive overload built in, you can make so much progress doing those things. If you want to spend more time in the gym, that's absolutely something you can do. But that's not to say that your gains are going to be, so much better than the person who doesn't spend as much time in the gym. It's not like if you work out twice as much, you'll make twice the gains. That's not a ratio that exists in fitness. But as opposed to the student analogy, let's say Jim Bob, instead of being behind in school and having to make up the work by studying extra hard at the end of the year, Jim Bob is a person with lofty fitness expectations. Let's say Jim Bob just got cast in season 3 of The Boys on Amazon. It's a superhero show. Obviously, superheroes have to be muscular and ripped and have to look a certain way. Jim Bob might have to spend extra time in the gym for those little bit of marginal extra gains that he could possibly get in order to be cast on the show. He needs to be in the gym for that long. But let's say you're not going to be cast in the show. You're going to spend more time watching the show sitting on your couch. You don't need to have an extraordinary A+ physique in order to achieve that. So you don't need to spend extra time in the gym. It's all dependent on your situation. Your situation will dictate your actions. Of course, there's no way to know for sure exactly what these numbers are. There's no way to know if you study for X amount of time, you'll get X grade on the test, because kids learn differently, because kids learn at different speeds, because kids just are different, right? We're all different. Same thing with you. You fitness different. You gain weight differently. You lose weight differently. You gain muscle differently. You get stronger differently than the person sitting next to you. So there's no way to know what these things are for sure. But if you did know these things, obviously you would probably choose to do less work if you still got a good amount of progress out of it at the end. So if you listen to episode 11 of this podcast, going way back, this was my interview with Armand, aka Cheesy Fit, we talked about minimum effective volume. And this is not something that you need to know, just an average gym goer, but the minimum effective volume is the lowest amount of work that you can do in order to make progress. And actually in the gym this past week, there was somebody that came to me and they said that they work out every day, which is a lot, for an hour, hour and a half each day. And when I did a workout with that person, it was a shorter workout. We only worked out for 45 minutes. I put her through an entire workout. It was only 45 minutes. And I said, this might feel like not a lot, but I would rather you do less and you can add on after the fact than do too much and hurt yourself. When I'm in the gym, more times than not, I see one of the two extremes. I see people that want to get in and out very quickly, or people that want to stay there for a very long time. And when I talk about very long time, I'm talking about an hour plus. Most people's workouts are going to be anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. That's about average. Anything over an hour is definitely on the higher end. And what I found is obviously there's going to be a faction of people that just really love working out, really have a passion for fitness, that want to be in the gym for that long. And that's fantastic. Do you, boo. But there's going to be other people that are in the gym for that long because they feel like they need to be in the gym for that long. They feel like they need to be there that long in order to make the progress that they want to make, which is absolutely not necessarily true. You can make a ton of progress in a shorter period of time. So when I tell people that I work out for 30, maybe 45 minutes, very rarely am I in the gym for an hour, they're pretty shocked. But I've gotten to the point where I know that I can make X amount of progress. Not X amount of progress, there's no way to know for sure, but I know I can still make progress doing a shorter workout. I've been working out at home, like I said at the top of this episode, and I went to the gym and I had a better workout than I did back in March, pre-coronavirus. I've gotten better over the last few months, and I've been doing that with 30, maybe 45-minute workouts. I can't tell you the last time I worked out for an hour straight. It's been a very, very long time. And back in my day when I first got into my powerlifting style training, I would spend so much time on one lift and then do other accessory lifts after that. There was points where I was spending 30, 45, maybe even an hour doing one lift, and then I still have more to do after the fact. So I was spending a ton of time in the gym. Did that maybe create a strong base for me? Did that maybe make me stronger in order for the rest of my life? As a base for the rest of my life, it's possible, but I probably could have done those things in a much shorter manner. I didn't have to spend all that time in the gym. So if I was living in a life where I had so much financial stability that I didn't have to work, I didn't have to do anything, or I didn't have to work as much, that I had a much more flexible schedule, would I spend more time in the gym? Probably, because I do like being in the gym, I do like lifting, I do like pushing myself. But I've got other things around my life. I've got a family, I've got a girlfriend, I've got to make this podcast. Making this podcast, I've got to make videos for Instagram. There's a lot of things in the outside parts of my life that also take time. So I know I've got to put an emphasis on my own fitness, because if I don't, then all of this is for naught. But I also know that there's other things in my life that are also as important, maybe not as important, because this is life or death sometimes is your fitness, but that are also important to me that I want to spend time doing so I can cut down my workout time in order to make time for everything else, and I can still make progress. So finding out what your minimum effective volume is, and this is going to be trial and error, doing less versus doing more, and then you can add more if you need to after the fact, is the first thing that I wish I knew when I first started fitness. You can always add on. It's easier to add on than it is to take off. Thing number 2, I wish I knew when I first started my fitness journey, was to drink tons of water. Obviously, water has a lot of health benefits. It provides cushion for your joints. It regulates your body temperature. It provides a delivery service for the nutrients around your body, for your blood, things of that nature. But aside from that, you should know that water is just kind of good for you and you should be drinking it. But water can also help you lose weight. Now, scientifically speaking, the only way to lose weight is to be in a caloric deficit. You've got to eat less calories than what your body wants you to eat. That's how you lose weight. So water alone is not going to do that for you, of course. But in a roundabout way, water can lead you to eat less calories. So in my personal life, I used to never drink water. I hated drinking water. Water has no flavor. I like to drink things with flavor. I used to drink a lot of soda. I've gotten to the point where I started drinking a lot of soda again, but now it's either water or soda. There's not other things that are intertwined into that. But as of, a couple years ago, I finally got a gallon water bottle, and I found it like a challenge to myself to finish that water bottle at some point throughout the day. And now I probably drink too much water to the point where I literally have to go to the bathroom like every 10-15 minutes. So there are definitely days where I overdrink for sure. So water alone is not going to help you lose weight, but water can absolutely help you create a caloric deficit. So the stomach has a stretch reflex. Stretch reflex, I talked about this way back when for the 8 board eating tips that I did way back at the beginning of this podcast, way back at the beginning of the coronavirus quarantine. And it's that your stomach has a stretch reflex. So once your stomach is filled with content, it sends a signal to your brain that we don't need any more food. We don't need any more content within the stomach. We're pretty at capacity. Now, obviously that happens when you eat, but it also happens when you drink. So if you drink a 0-calorie option like water and it engages that stretch reflex, it tells your body we're full, we don't need any more contents. So we got to the point a couple weeks ago where I woke up late, I still had things to do, I had to do the podcast, I had to go to a client's house, I had to eat breakfast eventually, but I put off breakfast all the way till the very end. And what I was drinking water the whole time. And in drinking water, I didn't feel like I was hungry really until I had to eat breakfast. And usually I wake up pretty ravenous. But I was pushing off that first meal for a long time. And in doing so, I pushed off every other meal after that. So if you're a person who eats breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a late night snack, imagine if you push off your breakfast for long enough, that you push off your lunch and your dinner for long enough, that you don't even have to have a late night snack because you're eating later than you usually would. Or imagine drinking so much water that the contents of your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and late night snack get to be smaller and smaller and smaller. So you're cutting calories without even knowing it, without even doing too much work, just by drinking some water. So drinking lots of water obviously has a ton of health benefits, but it'll help you eat less in the long run. So drink lots of water. Thing number 3 that I wish I knew when I first got into fitness is always try to get better. Now, I've talked about this in a couple of roundabout ways over a bunch of episodes, but when I talk about always trying to get better, when you're working out, you've got progressive overload hopefully built into your program. But on a day-to-day basis, walking around a gym, you can't imagine how many people I see doing the same thing over and over again. I don't know if they're doing the same weight because I'm not watching that closely, but I'm assuming that they're doing the same weight. I'm assuming that they're doing the same workout program. I'm assuming that they're on the treadmill for the same amount of time. This is where keeping a journal is obviously super important. Knowing what weights you're using, knowing how long you're on a treadmill, allows you to try to get better every single time that you're at the gym. If you're doing a chest press for 25 pounds for 10 reps, next time try to do a 11th rep. Try to do a 12th rep. Once you get to the point where you're doing a lot of reps, up the weight. Always trying to get better. At the very least, always try to at least stay neutral before you can get better, because it's not going to just constantly get better and better and better. We would all be super jacked, super ripped. But always trying to not backtrack, I guess, is maybe a better way to put this. And obviously, there's going to be things that come up in your life. You're going to go on vacation. You're going to get hurt. You're going to get sick. These are things that are going to stop you from working out, and you might kind of regress a little bit. This might sound kind of crazy, but there might be a virus that shows up that takes over the entire world, that shuts everything down for 5 months and doesn't allow you to work out in a gym. These are all things that happen. Things happen that stop you from working out. Things happen that stop you from making progress. So it's not like you're always going to continually get better. There are going to be days where you dip a little bit. There are going to be times where you dip a little bit. You're going to get a little bit weaker. You're going to gain a little bit of weight. Trying to limit the amount of times that you're in those regression states. Trying to stay at the very least neutral, if not getting better. So having a journal where you can track things and always trying to do a little bit more, do a little bit more weight, do a little bit more reps, spend a little bit more time on the treadmill. Always trying to get better makes you better in the long run. This is one of the ways that you can easily implement progressive overload in your training program. Thing number 4 that I wish I knew when I first started my fitness journey was eat the ice cream. This is a slippery slope because over the course of my fitness life, I've had different viewpoints of fitness. At the very beginning, it was very black and white. You had to eat healthy. You had to work out a lot in order to be fit, which obviously there's a big portion of that that's still true to this day. But obviously there's different ways about going about that. It's not always a one-track mind. Then I found out about If It Fits Your Macros. I found out about macro tracking, calorie tracking, and I started to go haywire, and I started to eat lots of Taco Bell. I started to eat lots of sweets. As long as it fit my calories, I was going a little bit over the extreme. And then I kind of came back to it. I kind of started to have a healthy mindset again. And then now I am kind of in the middle. But when I say eat the ice cream, there's a lot of people out there who are under the assumption, rightfully so, because this is kind of how we were trained to think, that there are good foods and bad foods. There's no such thing as bad foods. There's foods that are not optimal for your health. There's foods that are going to make it harder for you to make progress, but they're not necessarily bad. If there's 365 days out of the year and you eat pizza for one of those days, does that make you a bad person? No, of course not. If you eat pizza for 100 of the days, does that make you a bad person? No, of course not. If you're eating too much pizza to the point where you can't make progress, then that's not a good thing. But eating pizza in a portion that allows you to make progress and allows you to still be healthy is obviously the best way to go about doing that. So in terms of like having this mindset of good and bad foods, this is a mindset that I had way back in the day. This is a mindset that some of you guys might still have now to this day. There's no such thing as good and bad foods. There's such things as too much quantity of certain foods. That will stop you from making progress. That will give you a hard time to make progress. And that will kind of make your life very, very, very difficult when it comes to the fitness aspect. It could be very frustrating. That's kind of how we kind of get into that lose weight, gain weight back cycle, lose weight, gain weight back cycle. That's why so many people that lose weight, a significant amount of weight, they kind of rebound and eventually gain that weight back because they're in that good food, bad food mindset. So eat the ice cream every once in a while. Allow yourself to live a little bit. Allow yourself to enjoy the journey. Allow yourself to eat the things that you want to eat as long as you're still making progress. That's the most important thing. You can absolutely do these things in a way that still helps you make progress, and you'll be much happier for it. Thing number 5 that I wish I knew before I started my fitness journey: the internet lies. So I started Made to Excel Fitness back in 2017. So it's been 3 years, just coming up on 4 years. So as an internet person, I'm not an influencer. I don't have a big audience. I'm not popular. I'm not, whatever. But I have lived in a space where I'm creating content for the internet for people to see. And over that time, I've learned a lot about social media. I've learned a lot about the internet. I've learned a lot about what makes the internet go. And at the end of the day, it's all about virality. It's all about being the most absolutely ridiculous you could possibly be, over the top. It's all about extremes. Extremes are what boosts views. Extremes are what boosts interaction. Extremes are what boosts revenue. So people want to be extreme on the internet. But the internet is a dangerous place. I have a whole podcast episode about it, the dark side of social media. But there are points in my life where I was so inundated with the things that bodybuilding.com said. I was so inundated with the things that different YouTubers said that I was on a straight path. I didn't know exactly where to go because a lot of these people preach extremes because extremes are what brings them the most views. That's where clickbait was born. And I clickbait to a certain extent because you've got to grab people's attentions very quickly. We live in an age and time where people have very short attention spans. So when I say something like alcohol has 1,000,000 calories, which is one of the Instagram videos that I put out last week, alcohol obviously doesn't have 1,000,000 calories, but it's just something that kind of hopefully grabs somebody's attention and say, what is this? And then they go about reading it. But of course, it gets to the point where clickbait can be dangerous. Clickbait can lead you into different rabbit holes as to information that you don't necessarily need, information that will lead you in the wrong direction. So at the end of the day, I've learned this. Hopefully, I've been teaching you guys this along the road. Be aware of what you see on the internet. The internet is not always your friend. The internet is your friend a lot of times, but the internet is not always your friend. There is a part of this that is all revenue based. Instagram is a place where they show you what they want to show you. They don't show you the realness of their life. They show you the sponsored ads. They show you the companies that they work with. They show you their products. It's not always about getting the best information out there. It's always about making the most money with that information. So just be aware when you're on the internet. Last but not least, this is a long episode, but thing number 6 that I wish I knew when I first started my fitness journey is to try something new. So when it comes to if you are in a position where you want to manage your weight, the only thing that you need to manage your weight is to have your calories in control, whichever direction you want to go. If you want to gain weight, you need to have more calories than your body needs. If you want to lose weight, you have to have less calories than your body needs. So when it comes to that, your training, you have a world of options. As long as your calories are in control, you have a lot of time, a lot of opportunities to kind of experiment with your training. And if you listen to the first episode of this podcast, the icebreaker episode, I got into my story a little bit. Not that any of you guys care, but when I first started fitness, well, I've not been the most athletic kid in my life. I played baseball for many years of my life, but it's not the most athletic sport out there. But I was always around a gym, and I was always doing something kind of physical, and I never really enjoyed it. It wasn't really my thing. And even to the point where I got into college, in my first year of college, I went to the gym because I felt like I was gaining a little bit of weight. I was eating, a whole bunch of like crazy things at the dining hall, but I didn't enjoy being in the gym. And at that point, had I not been contractually obligated to that college, obviously I could have dropped out, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get a degree. I wanted to stick it out. Had I not been at that point, I might have given up on the fitness journey altogether, and my life could look very different at this point. But at that point, I said, I don't like what I'm doing right now. I've got to switch my major. The closest major that I had was exercise science. It allowed me to still be on track to graduate on time, which was obviously super important. So I went with that. I was an exercise science major. And in that, and meeting the roommates that I did eventually in my second year of college, I learned to try different aspects of fitness. That's when I got into my powerlifting style of training, which is not really powerlifting. It was just a variation of that. And that's really when I started to kind of enjoy going to the gym. I enjoy trying to get bigger and bigger weights every week. I enjoyed that aspect of it. I didn't enjoy the parts of it that I did before, the more bodybuilding style training. I enjoy that now because it's less taxing on me. Had I not gotten to that point, I would have given up on fitness. So allowing myself to try something new, and a lot of you guys are going to be in a situation where you don't have anything holding you in, like college did for me. You might get to the point where you have to make a decision. Either do you give up on your fitness journey or do you try something new? So as long as you have your calories in check, you have all the time in the world to try different training styles. You can try bodybuilding, you can try powerlifting, you can try CrossFit, you could try strongman, you can try all these different things. I'm blanking out on different types of fitness, calisthenics, all these different things that you might eventually find one that you enjoy. And that will make your fitness journey that much easier because you're doing something that you enjoy doing. And even with the diet side of it, you can try different types of diets. As long as your calories are in control, it doesn't matter what kind of diet you do, but you might find that you enjoy one diet over the other. And these are all things that are going to make your fitness journey even easier, even simpler, even more enjoyable. That is going to allow you to make progress in the long run, sustainable progress that is going to last for a very, very long time. You're not going to be stuck in that vicious cycle. So those are the 6 things that I wish I knew when I first got into fitness. Last but not least, wrapping up, this is a long episode. Weekly follow-up. Last week's episode 31, was all about the 3 basic training principles that you need for a resistance training program. And the one thing I really want to emphasize from that particular podcast episode was the mind-muscle connection. It's a very confusing concept. It's something that you almost have to go to the gym and try for yourself. And I guess one of the best ways to go and think about doing it is whenever you're doing any sort of workout, be sort of mentally conscious as to where you feel this particular workout. A lot of times people are just going through the motions. I'm told to do a press, so I'll do a press. I don't know what the press is for. I don't know what the press is supposed to work, but I was told to do it, so I'm going to do it. So next time you're at the gym, if you're still struggling with the concept of the mind-muscle connection, whenever you're doing any workout, think about, where do I feel this the most? There might be places where you feel it multiple different places, but maybe one more so than others. And maybe ask somebody, or do a little bit of research. Go to Google, look up what muscles that exercise is supposed to be working, and see if those things match up. Then eventually you'll start to think about this more and more and more. It'll become more apparent in your mind what things are supposed to be working and what things are not supposed to be working. That might lead you to form tweaks. That might lead you to making better decisions in the gym. That might lead you to movements that work better for you. So just being conscious of where you're starting to feel these different exercises might go a long way to starting to establish that mind-muscle connection, which is a very confusing kind of concept unless you're doing it yourself. But I think that's it. That wraps up today's show. It was a little bit long, but we got through there. 6 things that I wish I knew when I got into my fitness journey. Hopefully you guys can take this information and be a little bit early to the punch, earlier than I was, and continue to make progress going forward. If you enjoyed today's show, hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening or watching. Leave a comment, leave a review, share this episode with a friend who you think might enjoy it. For all your Halloween goodies, go to mtefit.com and shop there. If you're on YouTube, hit one of the 2 related videos here in the corners. I think you might enjoy them if you haven't seen them already. Hit the subscribe button down here. If you have any questions for the future Q&A, hit me up on Instagram at mtefit, or email me at made2excelfitness@gmail.com. I appreciate and love every single one of you. Stay spooky, my friends. Peace.
What's up, Mark? How you doing, man? Hunter Henry, LA Charger tight end. Best big time shout out to your fitness podcast, the Made to Excel Fitness podcast. So super cool, man. Got a lot going on. Bolt Ganger, don't bang.